In this episode, I'm going to discuss the differences between various types of mountaineering boots and some of the advantages of approach boots or camp shoes. Now, what we have here are typically what you might see for summertime climbing. This example here is what is called a three-season boot, also known as a hybrid or lightweight climbing boot. First thing to know is these type of boots are not insulated, although they do have some padding. This weighs 1.8 pounds, just this one boot here. So it is lighter than the heavier boot, which I'll discuss a little bit later. But some of the features, this particular example has a synthetic material on the back, the cut down weight. They can also have waterproof leather. You want this welt on the rear. That's what you can attach a cramp-on clip to. And here's an example that shows a cramp-on clipped onto that. However, the front of the boot is just a rounded toe. Some advantage of that is it makes, if you're doing rock climbing and scrambling, a little bit easier to do some toe work. But to fit a cramp-on, you can see it has this little cage that straps on the front to hold the cramp-on down. These boots are waterproof. There's some sort of membrane, the waterproof membrane on it. Again, they're lightweight. They're not insulated. They have what is called a 3/4 shank. That's basically a stiff plate in the insole, and by 3/4 it allows flexibility at the toe. So it makes it much easier and more comfortable to walk in. The disadvantage of that is if you're climbing very steep ice, it's not a good thing to have that flexibility in your toe. You want something stiff. Now, the other type of boot you'll see, and this is often the type of boot that a guide service will rent or an outfitter will rent you. This is a 4-season climbing boot. It is insulated all the way through, which makes it the 4-season. This example has leather, not the synthetic, although you can get them in both types of versions. It is waterproof. It has the rear welt to accept the clip of the cramp-on. It also has this welt on the front, so you can use what are called step-in clamp-ons, which have basically a wire bail that fits across the front of the boot. It is a full shank boot, which means it doesn't have a lot of flexibility at the toe. So if you're just climbing with your cramp-ons front pointing up, you have a very stable platform. And that's the advantage of a full shank boot. Now, the disadvantage is it is very stiff and not really comfortable to walk in. This example here weighs 2.8 pounds, a full pound more than the lightweight, non-insulated 3-season boot. Because of that weight difference, studies have shown for every pound on your legs is equivalent to 5 pounds on your back. Now, it doesn't mean your backpack's heavier. What it means is you're expending more energy and calories and increased fatigue. So whereas this lightweight boot, you can go from trailhead to summit and back in it, but you may not necessarily want to do that. This heavyweight boot, very few people want to put this on at the trailhead and walk all the way up with it, simply because of the weight. Unless your approach is across snowfields and perhaps glaciers, then you'd want to go to those. But most trailheads start out fairly dry. So a lot of people will use a lightweight hiker. This one weighs less than a pound. It is a boot because it does come up over the ankle. It has the waterproof membrane in it. It's very flexible, comfortable to walk in. This is another example of a lightweight hiker. Again, you'll see them advertised as mid, that defines the height of the boot. A mid is a boot, not a shoe. And just another example of a lightweight hiker. So you might want to start out in these. If you're going to cross some streams, try and get the waterproof version. You're better off keeping your climbing boots dry. So if you're doing stream crossings, get these wet. You won't have a problem. Okay, so when you get to camp, whether your camp is dry or wet, there's what's called camp shoes. Now, if you use these lightweight hikers, these can be your camp shoes. They're much more comfortable walking around in than your climbing boots. Some people use old retired running shoes. I've seen Crocs used. They weigh next to nothing, but they are a little bit bulky. Another thought is something like this. Nice cozy boot. It's warm. It does have a sole, a little bit grippy. Not exactly designed for a lot of walking on, but if you're just in camp, answering nature's call, something like this, takes up very little room. It's soft, it's light, and it's weight. So, some considerations on that approach is if you're going to be crossing a lot of ice and snow, you just might want to start out in your climbing boots. But if it's going to be rather dry, save the weight on your legs and go with some lightweight hikers. And think about camp shoes. All right, hopefully that answered your questions, and you be sure to like and subscribe.